There's a new breed of aircraft taking to the skies. They represent the first major change in aviation development since the 1940s. Don't be fooled by outside appearances. This is not a conventional biplane, but one of the latest in a series of new developments that have led to a dramatically cheaper and less complex form of powered flight. From their early reputation of being frail and unsafe, ultralights today have truly come of age. The Renegade falls into everyone's definition of a real aeroplane. Although it doesn't have the performance of its big brothers, it's much easier to fly and, more significantly, much cheaper to operate.
Until 10 years ago, the aviation was only for the rich and the happy few. And since ultralight made its introduction, this kind of flying is being done by all kinds of people from all layers from the community. So it makes it possible for everybody now to go up in the sky and see how beautiful it is.
Weighing only 550 pounds and stressed to withstand G-forces from +10 to -6, the Renegade performs a wide range of sport aerobatics, despite the limitation of its 65 horsepower engine. Oshkosh, USA. No gathering of aeroplanes anywhere brings together such a rich variety of flying machines. From the top aerobatic acts to the latest Air Force fighters and exotic experimental home-builds. In 7 days, more than 500,000 people and 15,000 planes visit the show. It's simply the greatest air show on Earth. The host and heart of Oshkosh is the EAA, or Experimental Aircraft Association, the much-respected voice of the little man in aviation. When ultralights first appeared in the mid-1970s, the EAA immediately backed the new movement, recognizing that they epitomized their ideals. Founded in 1953, the EAA has over the years quietly fostered the home-building movement in America. Its main aim has always been to promote flying to the ordinary person, who does not have the means to buy a factory-built aircraft. At Oshkosh today, hundreds of ultralight designers, builders and pilots come together in the carnival atmosphere to show off and exchange ideas on this most innovative and rapidly developing new sector of aviation. These ultralight aircraft, with their relative simplicity, economy of operation and ability to fly in and out of small places, have brought new possibilities to many who until now had only ever dreamed of taking to the skies. This man is Britain's most prolific aircraft designer, having designed 8 new aircraft over the past 10 years. His dream is to make the cheapest possible aircraft that is still safe to fly. For anyone who's ever been put off flying by the thought of the cost, now is the time to reconsider. This aircraft costs no more to build or run than the average second-hand car. In many ways, this little craft offers a return to the early days of flying, unencumbered by all the officialdom and regulation of general aviation.
I think an aircraft's about the most exciting bit of machinery there is. So it's about the only thing that sort of stirs me.
Light aircraft could today be in high demand as efficient, fast, reliable and relaxing alternatives to the car. But this is not so. Most are either outdated and relatively inefficient, 20 to 40-year-old spam cans, or just expensive toys. Running on only 2.5 gallons of fuel an hour, the MW7 can take you 300 miles or 485 kilometers cross-country on a tank full of petrol at a total operating cost of under $15 an hour. David Cook is another Englishman driven by the dream of light flight. But it's performance he's after.
This aircraft from here to that hedge over there, which is 100 metres away, will clear a 100-foot tree by 200 feet from a standing start from here.
It takes two people just 10 minutes to assemble the streak shadow and prepare it for flight. An engineer by profession, David Cook decided the last thing he wanted was old-fashioned technology. And having flown more than 3,800 hours in Royal Air Force jets, he was keen to maximise performance.
I'll go this time.
Using the local cricket pitch as a runway, the craft is airborne in 7 seconds and climbs out at an impressive 1,600 feet a minute.
No aircraft has ever held a world record of distance, speed and altitude. This one has come close. I want to show people that this aircraft has not only gone further than all others in its category, it's gone faster, but it also can go higher if you so wish.
With both the speed and distance record under his belt, David Cook's first attempt at going higher took the streak to over 27,000 feet, only 500 feet short of a world altitude record in its class. The lightest possible of ultralights, the paramotor, is simply a powered paraglider. And for extra comfort, some have even been fitted with a seat and wheels. These craft may look crude, but are much more than just an aeronautical joke. They're tremendous fun and very safe, being unable to stall or spin. They can be flown by people with no previous experience, and becoming a certified pilot requires only 4 hours flying time. In the case of engine failure, the craft will land as a normal parachute would. All in all, perhaps the safest powered aircraft around. The French are even experimenting with fitting aerial spraying equipment to them, which might then give them a professional role in the future.
Anybody who can ride a bike can fly an ultralight. That's my opinion.
Ultralights brought Richard Robart back to flying after ill health ended his Air Force career some 30 years ago. Although now ostensibly retired, he spends all his free time instructing students. His passion for flying began as a young boy, his imagination fired by the stories of fighter pilot exploits of the Second World War.
Pilots in those days, they were my big heroes. And so I wanted to be a pilot myself. Later, I joined the Royal Dutch Air Force and became a fighter pilot there. And then I didn't fly for about 30 years. But then suddenly by coincidence, I came in touch with ultralight aircraft, ultralight flying. It really was a coincidence, and well, it made my heart go boom again, and now that's where I am now. It's real flying, it's real freedom, it's real the excitement of being up in the air with the most primitive ways of flying, and well, it gives me a kick.
Practical ideas of cheap flight for all go back to the 1920s, when a Frenchman named Henri Minier designed a series of small, light, unstallable and unspinnable aircraft he called flying fleas. They provoked an unprecedented outbreak of home building. Despite some fatal accidents relating to an initial design fault, the unusual tandem wing concept has proven to be very safe and a delight to fly. His son now carries on the tradition with this updated version, which can also be configured as an agricultural sprayer or seaplane. Like his hero, Henri Minier, Mike Whitaker is a professional engineer with a strong practical bent. The way he brings down the cost is to stay away from aircraft-grade materials in their construction. It means living with extra weight and so losing a little performance, but that's more than compensated for by saving up to 10 times the cost in materials. And with no wind tunnel or computer models to test new designs, there's only one thing for it. You have to fly them yourself.
I don't mind the low-level sort of buzzing around, but long cross-countries tend to wear on my nerves a bit. Well, it's the design and development side that interests me mainly. And I've got to go aloft occasionally to show the builders I have a bit of confidence in my own stuff. As Henry Mignot said, flying is not all that aviation is about. There are other aspects as well.
Where's Father then?
Usual place, up in his shed. He's totally taken up with what he's doing. It's not just a hobby to him. It's his life, really. It's not just a thing he can pick up and put down. It's something that totally absorbs him.
The challenge to me is producing the cheap, simple aeroplane. It is low cost, simple to build, and also economical to operate. And to achieve this, it's got to be capable of being quickly dismantled so you can transport it and keep it in your shed or garage at home. And it's got to be capable of operating from rough farm fields.
Ignition on. Clear the prop.
Always on the lookout for improvements, David Cook tests a new engine to see if the power output really matches what's been claimed. Weight is kept to a minimum with a glass honeycomb material used for floorboards in many airliners. But it's not just what you use, but how you use it that makes the difference.
This is the fuselage section of my aircraft. It's different from all others because it's made so that the primary structure is the seat. And instead of adding a seat to the airplane when you finished it, like every other design I've ever seen, you actually use the primary structure as the seat. That way we save weight. So we use a fiberland material, which is a honeycomb with glass skins either side, and it's expensive, but it's very, very strong and very light, and it suits us real fine.
There are 48 MWs now flying, a prototype two-seater having clocked up over 1,000 flying hours so far. Once a year, MW owners and builders organise a fly-in to exchange tips and ideas on their projects. The festivities get off to a good start with a flying display performed by 2 ex-RAF pilots who just got official certification, allowing them to put on public displays. Even though an MW is an easier plane to build than most, any owner-builder project is a major enterprise, most projects taking between 1 and 2 years to complete. The main role of these meetings is to encourage new builders by giving them flights in existing machines and give them an opportunity to talk shop with their mentor.
Well, this is one of the best finished and built microlights I've seen. And see the nacelles constructed out of the drop tank of a Phantom. And shining example to the rest of us.
Every MW built so far has been test flown by Eddie Clapham, a retired Rolls-Royce engineer, who recently co-piloted his MW in the first international air rally in the Ukraine.
I always wanted to be a test pilot. I never managed it professionally, but at least I can do it as an amateur.
This is the first MW7 to be fitted with a much cheaper air-cooled 50 horsepower engine instead of the normal 64 horsepower. Exactly how this will affect performance can only be gauged by getting it airborne. For Mike Whitaker, this is always a special moment. a chance to reflect on what's been achieved over the past 10 years.
It's quite satisfying, you know, to see all these machines coming about and people enjoying themselves. What it's all about, you know, a real fun weekend. Where the objective of the exercise, what we've been trying to achieve all this time.
Perhaps the most impressive thing about this aircraft is its speed range. The Streak Shadow not only flies faster, but also slower than any other aircraft in its class. While it reaches speeds of 120 miles or 190 kilometers an hour in level flight, it will also fly happily at less than 30 miles or 50 kilometers an hour. Coupled with its rough field capability, the aircraft is wonderfully suited to all kinds of surveillance work. One of the benefits of having an engine at the rear is the superb visibility, which approaches that of a helicopter. A number are now doing wildlife protection duties in Africa, and a small market seems to be developing for a military version for reconnaissance work. Although the Streak Shadow is light enough to qualify as a microlight in the UK and the US, it doesn't do so because of its high wing loading and speed. This means that if you want one, you'll have to build it yourself.
What we have here are some of the parts of our kit which goes out to everyone, all the bits and pieces which we make every part. The builder doesn't make any. For example, here is the parts that are composite, which make the fuel tank, and that basically forms up like a box. We build it out of that material because it's lighter than anything else, and it ends up like this, exceptionally light and very strong.
But the Streak doesn't so much need to be built as assembled, all the major parts having been semi-finished. There's some covering work to do, but most of the job entails assembling the airframe and fitting the engine. But it's going to take time to sell a new concept in the conservative world of aviation. The current vogue is for tail-dragging 1940 lookalikes, and among those, the Kit Fox is by far the most successful. Despite its very ordinary performance, with more than 1,500 kits sold to date, the Denny Aircraft Company have obviously produced exactly what the customer wants. It's now undoubtedly the most popular home-built aircraft in the world. The conventional aluminium frame fuselage is assembled, along with all the other parts necessary, at the factory in Nampa, Idaho. The Kit Fox will haul around 510 pounds off the ground in around 100 feet and cruise at 75 miles or 120 kilometers an hour for around 3 hours. As part of a continual process of evolution, the Kit Fox has been provided with a new wing. The new airfoil and full-span flaperons offer better stall control and lower landing speed, nearly twice the roll rate, and a higher cruise speed. Fitting a more powerful 80 horsepower motor has also improved the performance of aircraft fitted with floats or skis. Starting from humble beginnings in 1984, the company now turns out around 50 kits each month and ships them to more than 24 countries around the globe. Many of them are constructed by people who've never built an aeroplane before.
I got tired of renting airplanes and the inconvenience associated with, trying to get a plane and getting time. I wanted to get my flight time up quite a bit, so what I did is I needed something that'll carry a load, because I'm a large guy, and be relatively easy to build. And the Kit Fox looked like that, all for a reasonable price. It seemed like kind of old-fashioned design techniques and things that have been around a long time that I figured would be pretty reliable. So I trusted it and bought it without seeing one. And currently now I have about 600 hours into it, and I figure I got another at least 200 or 300 left to go. And that's why I dedicated all my other free time outside of the things with the family to doing the Kit Fox. That would be like vacation time. Instead of taking a trip or go camping this year like we normally would, I've been spending all that time building. I've never flown a tail dragger. Truth is, I've never even flown a high-wing airplane. All my time's been in a Tomahawk and a Warrior. So I hope it's going to be fun. I get a little tired now and then, get a little discouraged, but what I do then is I flip on my video and I sit by TV at night and I watch my the 15-minute promotional video and say, that's what it looks like and that's what I'm building, that's what I'm going to be doing, and it's not that far away. I don't know, it's hard to explain, I guess. It's like a perfect feeling of freedom, of being part of the wind. And, you're doing something that a lot of people dream of, yet I'm doing it for myself.
This is my latest design called the Image. It's a flying wing design, and it should bring jet fighter performance of the early 50s, I'm hoping, to the average home builder. And the way I've done it is reduce the airframe weight rather than increase the engine size. Now, in the United States, they're just about getting 300 miles an hour with 300 and odd horsepower, but I want to get over 200 miles an hour and up to 6,000 foot a minute climb rate using less than 100 horsepower.
With the success of Streak Shadow under his belt, who dares question this vision? David Cook's flying wing concept could make ultralights slippery enough to outperform many conventional single-engined aircraft. The gyrocopter is the oldest type of ultralight still regularly flying, having been conceived in the 1930s. At running costs of around $15 an hour, they fly for only a fraction of what it costs to keep a helicopter and even most fixed-wing types in the air. The economy comes with its simplicity. The main rotor is unpowered and merely free wheels to provide lift, giving them remarkable flying characteristics. They can fly sideways, even backwards in a headwind, and cope with gusts which would ground all other types of light aircraft. With so much going for the autogyro, it's remarkable they're not more popular. Professional uses of ultralights are now well developed. The police forces in both the US and Holland having completed extensive trials for their use in routine surveillance work. Here, the Dutch police are carrying out an exercise to assess the viability of ultralights in monitoring environmental problems. The police have been tipped off that drums of toxic waste have been dumped in a wooded area. The ultralight's role is to locate the drums from the air and then direct a patrol car to investigate.
Vermoedelijk in verband met een illegale dumping van vaten. Aanrijden via Vogelweg. En daar krijgt u nadere instructies.
Ja, is genomen. We gaan die kant op en we nemen nader contact met u op over.
Their low speed and excellent visibility make it possible for the aircraft to coordinate closely with patrol cars in much the same way as helicopters do, but at a fraction of the cost. Beside their obvious suitability for police and military observation and surveillance purposes, they're also being used for rounding up cattle, beach patrol, banner towing, and geological surveys. And costing little more than a tornado filler cap, the RAF are even looking at the possibilities of ultralights taking over from the Chipmunk as general flight trainers.
2 Bravo 4, hier de 14 over.
Zegt u maar 14.
Nou, we zijn in de buurt, maar we kunnen het niet geheel traceren. Kunt u nog iets nader omschrijven?
Als u het tweede pad rechts heeft genomen, links afslaan en ongeveer 100 meter doorrijden aan uw linkerhand. Daar liggen in de bossage 4 rode vaten.
Ja, het is genomen, u wordt nader.
Human imagination has no limits, and there'll always be people who dare to dream. Certain aviation developments come and go, but ultralight aircraft are here to stay. They've done away with airports, aircraft hangars, and many of the regulations covering other forms of aviation. It is really all about freedom. These aircraft fulfill a need that cannot be met by anything else. The ultralight captures powered flight in its simplest form. But there's still a lot of prejudice from the mainstream aviation world against these unconventional mini-craft. In a span of a single lifetime, aviation development has brought us from little more than a walking pace to speeds of over 2,400 miles or 3,900 kilometers an hour. In that time, the aircraft has shrunk the Earth to a tiny ball. But in our haste, we've forgotten what has motivated all flight pioneers since Leonardo da Vinci: the simple dream of cheap flight for all.
In England, you can fly from anywhere you like, provided you have the owner's permission. You don't need officialdom to get involved. And we find these airplanes are very good for going and visiting friends who have fields that are suitable. And it's surprising how many people have got suitable fields. So I think that to be free from the sort of officialdom and free from air traffic control and able to sort of go when you want and come back when you want, and all the discipline is sort of self-discipline, somehow it makes a very, very satisfying activity, I think.